All right. Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of How I Met Your Mortgage. Jen, I see you smirking because I didn't say good morning, everyone, because, yeah, I'm aware it's not necessarily morning where all of our viewers, listeners, everybody catching us in syndication are. But good morning, Jen. I know it's morning where you are.
Good morning, Adam.
And of course, with us, as always, is our marketing director and one of our other coaches here at Just the Tips, Jen Waybower. And Jen and I have a really cool guest for you guys today. Well, I don't exactly know how to dive right into it, but Michael Schaffer is with us. Good morning, Michael. I know it's morning where you are too.
It sure is, Adam. Good morning to you.
What I really think is unique about this particular episode for all you cool cats and kittens out there, to throw a Tiger King reference in there, yes, we know Carol killed her husband. It's okay. Um, is that Michael has actually put together a pair of interstate successful mortgage practices, both here in Colorado, where Jen and I are, and now in California, where Michael is. And that's kind of a unique perspective for a lot of our audience, and certainly for a lot of them that are starting to do this or that want to do this, that want to be snowbirds. I want to, live half my days in Colorado and half my days in Palm Springs or Palm Beach or anywhere in between. So I think that there's going to be some cool insight that Michael can give you guys on that particular subject. But Michael, enough of me yammering away. Let's talk about you. Give us a little bit of background. How did you get started in this game in real
Sure.
estate?
And just to clarify, we're agents, not mortgage lenders.
Of course,
We're a
yep.
real estate team. So how did I get started? So this is real estate. I would say is roughly my third to fourth career, something like that. Yeah, I've done various things, and I went to got a finance undergrad, was a banker for a while, got disillusioned with commercial banking, decided to be legitimately unemployed for a couple of years by getting my MBA. And then through various twists and turns, I was actually in the television business for a while. And then I actually started in real estate, not through real estate directly, but met a couple of people who were doing a startup that was real estate data. And I was looking for sort of a startup opportunity at the time. I had actually been playing poker full time for a few years at that point in my life, and it was ready for a little bit more legitimacy again. So we started this business called checkyourlandlord.com. It was back in the foreclosure days when tenants were getting kicked out of their homes because the mortgages were not being paid. And so we started out a way for tenants to actually get some background vetting on the property they were renting and their landlord, rather than having it just be one-sided. And one of my partners in that happened to be a broker at Sotheby's. We started flipping houses together. Eventually, I went into the representation side of it with him, and that was about 10 years ago that we started doing that, and I've been in a few different places since, leading up to my current teams.
That's really cool stuff. I really like that concept, and I don't want to delve into it too much because obviously not the point and purpose. But yeah, obviously having done this,
Nor was it profitable. So.
Nor was it profitable. Okay, I do remember seeing a lot of weird things in that era. I remember an employee whose landlord was having his mail sent to their house so that he could prove to a bank it was his primary residence and either get into a forbearance or a forgiveness or a mitigation or something to that effect so that he didn't actually lose his tenant's home to foreclosure. There was a lot of that stuff going on. It's really a cool concept. It's a neat idea.
You know what? I'll say is at least he was trying to keep the house that his tenants were living in, which back in those days, there was just a whole lot of, I've got 10 properties and I have $0 invested in them, so take them.
Yeah, and for however many months, I'm going to collect the rent and not pay a dime out.
Yep, exactly.
Yeah, a lot of strategic defaults in that era, no question. All right, so let's talk about your transition from here to there, because I think this is really cool content that our audience would love to hear about. We come across a lot of real estate agents doing multiple markets or wanting to do multiple markets. Tell us where it came from. And I know you were in California. If memory serves, you went to USC.
Yep, that's right.
Yeah, go Trojans. So I think that this is obviously a little more natural for you than what we're seeing with a lot of other agents that want to do a dual market business. But what prompted that for you?
Well, so a whole confluence of factors. I had been in California for about 10 years, starting when I started business school at USC. And then I was a screenwriter's agent in the television business for a while. And when that came to its conclusion, and I decided to get away from that, my ex-wife, she never liked living in LA, so we moved back to Denver. And so then I spent the next roughly 10 years there, and it had always really wanted to be back here in LA. I like LA, as bad a rap as it gets. I love LA, and I have a lot of friends and contacts here from my old business, all of that. And so a couple of years ago, again, just sort of a personal thing, I started dating my girlfriend who lives in Los Angeles. And so I was going back and forth. I was spending about a week in LA, 3 weeks in Denver. And that was, at the time, I was a solo broker. So I had left Sotheby's and my business partner there, had opened up my own shop, never with the intention of hiring people, always just to be completely independent. And so where that left me, though, after a couple of years, and when I started to want to be in Los Angeles and spend time here, it's very difficult to run a real estate business when you're not on the ground where your clients and properties are. So that led me to seek out either a partner or a team that would work with what I was trying to do. And so at the time, I actually joined a newly forming team and quickly unjoined that newly forming team. And learned a lot in that maybe 6 weeks that I was. It was kind of an exciting concept that didn't work out, and personalities involved and that sort of thing. But through that experience, I happened to meet another newly forming team at the same Keller Williams Integrity office in Denver where I had just joined. And just through coincidences of timing, I happened to do a deal with my current business partner, Jonathan Lowenberg. He had the seller, I had the buyer. We were in the same office. That's kind of how we met. And he was just creating the Search Denver Homes team at that point. He had been at Sotheby's for several years and was just starting the team, starting to do leverage. And so I joined him as kind of his senior agent there. And even at that point, I already knew that my plan was to transition to Los Angeles. So it worked out really well that we were very successful in our first year with Search Denver Homes in Denver. And through the pandemic, the timing couldn't have been better, because we got to use those months of shutdown to really dial in our systems. And we're a volume team, systems are everything. And we were able to use that time really effectively, come out of the gate last, I guess, June, when things started to open up again in Colorado, and really had a great rest of the year, to where then at the end of the year, we were comfortable enough with how we were doing, how the setup was working, that we decided we would open up a branch in California, Search Cali Homes, which we just opened up and really are just starting now. So it's about adapting to a new market, but we have the systems that we had in Denver. Those have already been built, so we're replicating. And we're not starting from scratch. There is a lot that is different, but when it comes down to lead gen and lead follow-up and internal systems, those are transportable.
Absolutely. And there are probably about a half a dozen things you said in that monologue that, probably got Jen and I real excited. I'm not going to get too profane about it, but pretty excited. Just as a preface, I want our audience to know that when we have guests on our show that are practicing real estate agents, there's a pretty lengthy vetting process that we look at their production before we even invite them to be on the show. And Jen, where are we at now? A little more than a year out on our guests. So we start
booking end of May.
End of May. So we start this process, what could potentially be 3 years before you guys get to hear somebody like Michael talk. So I want to put that out there, that Michael knows what he's doing. And I think a big piece of that is something that Michael said. I think the very best agents, the very best loan originators, the very best salespeople that we're seeing in 2021 spent some good time, thought, and money a year ago putting systems in place so that when we were all going to come out of the gate, and again in Denver that may have been June in real estate, in car sales that may have been August in California, whatever the case may be, that the people who really took the time, what I guess I would refer to as downtime, we didn't really get that in the mortgage industry because of what it did to the mortgage rates, what the pandemic did to the mortgage rates. But the very best, the very most proactive, the very most successful people we're seeing today spent that time a year ago putting those systems in place, figuring out where the glitches were, figuring out where the flaws were. What was it that Rob said to us last week, Jen? Fuck up quickly. Figure out where your mistakes are, where your holes are, and get those shored up as quick as you can. And obviously, this is something that Michael agrees with and did. And now look, folks, here is somebody who's got a high-volume brokerage in 2 locations. And Michael, I know you said you just got it started, but where are you? Right now, where are you?
Where am I physically?
Where are you physically?
I am in the driveway
Uh-huh.
of a house in Los Angeles
Uh-huh.
where my buyer's inspection is taking place.
Where a buyer's inspection is taking place. So it's not that new because you've already got people under contract in this new market, if you want to refer to it as that. So the systems that Michael put in place are obviously working. They're working here in Denver. We already knew that. Jen and I knew that anyway, and now our audience does. They're obviously something that you can replicate because it's already gaining traction in Los Angeles. So what does that look like? What are we talking about? What kind of systemization, automation were you guys working on a year ago that has paid such amazing dividends for you to be able to do exactly what you're doing right now, watching a client under inspection, go through their inspection that you're under contract with in a new market to you?
A whole lot of systems. And to give you a little bit of background, so one of the co-founders of our team, Jonathan Lowenberg's brother Mike, who is not a real estate agent, is a data scientist. And he has done lead generation for 30 years, going back to days when it was about generating leads to sell long distance services too, and that sort of thing. So on that side, and we also, it's not just internal, we also have great vendors. So we do a lot of advertising. We do a lot of PPC. We do Facebook advertising through one of our platforms called YLOPO. We have a very robust CRM. We're actually using a different one here in California than in Denver, but very similar. So in Denver, we're using Follow Up Boss as our CRM, which is amazing, really a great system to keep track of what's happening. In California, we're using Sierra Interactive, very similar. As far as really being able to see what are our leads looking at, what are they doing, AI to engage them via text, where we have had conversations, had our AI start conversations that lead to us jumping in online. They don't know it's two different people, or actually a computer and then a person, and being able to engage. And then we have internal ISAs. We've also used some external ISA vendors to varying degrees of success, I'll say. Do a lot of vetting when you're going to hire overseas. That's important. But so we have these systems, we have workflows set up. We're making sure that our agents are, when our agents get a lead from us, that they're doing the right things, that they're taking the right steps. And the way that we work is we are handing off not just, okay, this person landed on our website, okay, here, agent, go chase them and call them. That's what our ISAs are for, is to make those contacts and do that initial vetting, potentially getting those people to a lender and pre-approved, or at least starting through the process before it's ever put into one of our agents' hands. That way, our agents don't have to try to follow up with 500 leads or 1,000 leads. They have the active ones that they're working on, and they can focus their attention there while our ISA team does all of that nurturing.
Yeah, they're weeding it out. And
exactly.
And nice plugs there for both YLOPO and Follow Up Boss. And I'm not in disagreement. We've got a number of colleagues using both of those platforms, and a third that we're helping beta test on the origination side, on the mortgage side, called Radius, Jen? Radius Agent.
Yep.
And yeah, what we're seeing thus far from both, certainly from YLOPO and Follow Up Boss, it's impressive stuff, especially if we're going to do a high lead, a high internet lead, a high social media lead volume. And, well, I think we've all learned over the last decade what following up on internet leads is like. So having one of these fantastic systems in place to do that vetting, to weed that down, to take 1,000 leads and make it 20 viable consumers is fantastic stuff.
Yeah, it's really it's critical when you're dealing in high volume of various online lead sources are going to have various quality levels, and the key is to be able to relatively quickly figure out which ones are legitimate and can turn into business, and which ones to just set it and forget it with an automated system. So divvying up what are those leads that we're going to, either as agents or having our ISAs do, invest our personal time in, versus the ones that are lower probability that the automated systems can just chug along with and see where it goes. Follow-up is underestimated, and I know this from when I first started, when I had my own brokerage that was just me, solo shop, and I started doing internet advertising for the first time and started getting those internet leads. and I had no idea how to follow up, how much follow up to do. I certainly let a lot slip between the cracks, but even so, last December, I closed a deal for somebody that had been in my database for about 5 years. And I had touched base every once in a while, making sure that I was there and certainly there to answer questions. And after 5 years, we closed a deal in Denver in December, and he's actually my client, is a multi-state business person too, and he is now looking for a place here in LA. So I am getting to sell 2 places to this 5-year-old internet lead.
Yeah, no question for everybody listening. Internet leads are a great way to build up a contact database, collect data, phone numbers, email addresses, to build up that audience with whatever future lead gen activities that you're going to do. But hang on a second here, Michael, because you and I are talking a lot about high volume activity and internet leads and Facebook campaigns,
Yep.
and internal this and external that. And I'm guessing that some of our audience is an individual agent without a team. And I'm guessing that some of our audience are on the Luddite side of Boomer. What you are putting out there sounds very complicated and very expensive, and it's just beyond my scope, man.
Well, I would say that those things are scalable. Certainly, we did not start out with the kind of volume of money and systems that we have now. Now, it's a big investment every month. There is a lot invested in those systems. I didn't even get into, there are more systems than just that. There's an admin side of this that tracks our transactions. There's even more to it. But as an individual agent, and I was that for several years, just making sure, even with you can get into a pretty basic but robust CRM for not a ton of money every month. And it is worth every penny just for the ability to set up task plans, to have the computer tell you when to make the next phone call so that it doesn't have to be in your head. Did I call this person recently enough? Did I do this? It will tell you when to do things. And that's that has been very key for me, is use a system that it could just be your calendar. If you're keeping it at the most basic level, you'll just put on your calendar the next date that you're going to call, email, or text a particular lead. Now, your calendar is going to get pretty cluttered, but ultimately, that's all this is. You could have the fanciest systems in the world, and it's just a matter of do this thing on this date. Yeah,
that's really true. It does take a lot of the memory work out, a lot of the guesswork out, and certainly something I just don't want our audience to be misled here by me endorsing this kind of thing, because I practice this kind of thing. Literally hundreds of outbound phone calls triggered by the CRM, hundreds of outbound texts, emails, social media posts, all triggered by the CRM, so that we can build out these systems, put them into a specific plan or path or calendar or flowchart, or however you guys want to describe it. And yes, there is legwork being done on my end. I do pick up the damn phone. I do dial the 10 digits, and I do have conversations with people. And my team queues up text, and my team queues up social media work. It's not automated 100% by any means, but it is systemized 100%, so that everybody knows if somebody is in a specific line, in a specific flowchart, in a specific category, however you guys want to define it, that these tasks are going to happen if A, then B. And yeah, it's just night and day difference. It's the only way we're able to manage a 15,000 person contact database. If I were trying to remember who to call when, I'd lose my mind.
Exactly. There's no way to keep on top of, once you have enough of a volume of leads. And I think that one thing that is easy to lose sight of is the long tail of a lot of leads, whether they're internet leads or they're sphere. Almost especially if they're sphere, that's almost by definition a long tail, because that's somebody that maybe you've known for 30 years and you're just keeping in touch with every once in a while. To make sure that you're top of mind. None of these activities are guaranteed to turn into a deal today. But if you do enough of them consistently over enough time, and that's actually one of the reasons why I like the internet lead gen side of the business, is if it gets a little slower, you can pour a little more gas on it with some more money. Money is fuel for your business, and if things ebb and flow, I find that things ebb and flow a lot with Sphere. That a lot of those gaps can be filled in if you have an effective non-Sphere lead gen campaign too.
I think that that's true, and I think eventually what really happens well, and I forgive me if I'm predicting something that's completely incorrect, let me know, but eventually this can be practice and activity for your team while you are strictly focused on just handling your repeat clients, your referral clients, and able to manage working with only the people you want to work with. If you don't want to work with them, if they're total dickheads and you don't want to work with them, you don't have to. But I think the long game for everybody, I hope, certainly for the people that are kind of in tune with this, is that you're probably building up a business that you could walk away from while it still pays you.
That would be the goal.
Yeah, but these are all stepping stones to it.
Yeah, absolutely. You have to have these pieces in place, and and something we've learned a lot of lessons over the last couple of years. And one of those things one of the most important things is accountability from your agents. If you're running a team, at times I'm a little bit blown away by some agents' just lack of follow-up or motivation. We only get paid when a deal closes, so it always it kind of blows my mind when something is sitting there and I'm looking at calls that have been made and go, why hasn't this person been called in 3 months? It doesn't make sense to me that happens, but it does, and a lot of that is the hiring process, but it's also training. It's making sure that if you have agents working for you, that they are implementing the systems that you put into place, because the systems are worthless if they're not being used.
Oh, so true. Yeah, that's really well said. No question. If you're not actually doing the work, if you're not using the tools, the techniques, the tips, the tricks that you've spent time implementing, that you've spent time building, then, yeah, what was it for?
Right, and I know that people, people give, buying leads, and I wouldn't say that we really buy leads. We're doing internet lead gen, but people give it a bad rap because they say, they just never come through. If you follow up, they do.
Oh, and eventually, 5 years, man.
I mean, that's not the only case like that.
Sure, I'm sure.
And some of them will be ready that day. I had one last fall in Parker, Colorado. Through our website, we got a showing request. I met the person, showed them 2 houses, and we were under contract within a week of them landing on my website.
So some of them are 5 days, some of them are 5 years, but but one way or another, they're all valuable. Yeah, without equivocation. Jen, we kind of cut you out of the loop on this conversation. I'm sorry, and I'm getting your hints that we're over time, which happens every time we have a really solid conversation with somebody. What do you want to know from Michael's perspective?
I mean, we haven't gotten into my world very much of social media. And what do you do social media wise, Michael?
I wish that we did more, and we're actually, that's on our agenda, is to really do more social media. We do, obviously we have business pages for our California group and our Denver group, and we're, posting, blog posts on there and, listings and all of the usual, but I will say that it has not been our focus, and right now actually we're working on how to integrate that more as a focus. So the answer to that is we've been doing this without a robust social campaign.
Yeah.
I mean, some advertising obviously through Facebook, but
Sure.
But an actual social campaign, that's something we're working on.
Wow.
What about video? Do you guys do any video work, or is that kind of along the same lines?
We haven't done much of it lately. We did, right when COVID was just starting to open up, when we could just have those first virtual open houses. We were all over that. We did some Facebook Live events, that sort of thing. But, have we used social to the extent that it can be? No, definitely not. It's still something that we're working on and figuring out.
Yeah, I'm not sure there's many people that have really used social media to the full extent. There's always something new, so.
Right. Yeah, exactly. And I'll say that I am just not, I'm not a social media, person that much. So it's just not quite my wheelhouse. But luckily I have a team, and it will be in someone else's wheelhouse to figure it out for us.
It will be for some, no question. Very cool. So yeah, again, and I think Jen had mentioned this off camera before we went live, but yeah, tell us how our audience can get a hold of you, Michael.
Sure. They can reach me. My email is michael@searchcalihomes.com. So that's MICHAEL @searchcalihomes.com. You can call me 323-827-8143. Find me on Facebook, Search Cali Homes, or Michael Schaffer Realtor. Lots of ways to find me.
Great. Yeah, this is really cool stuff. And I'm looking at it now for those of you. It is michael.schaffer.58 on Facebook is his handle there. So very cool stuff. Thank you. Yeah, Jen, I would say there's a lot more to talk about with Michael. Hopefully we can pluck a little more time out of his crazy schedule. Maybe we'll get him to zoom in from a closing one day.
Right.
Would love to. Although we don't have closings in California.
That's true. That's true. Yeah, it is a wet state. It's an escrow state. Yeah, it is a little different. All right.
It is a bit different. All right. Thanks so much.
Yeah, Jen, take us home.
All right, for everybody watching or listening, thank you for tuning in. You can text TIPS to 63566 to find out more about us. The big news, of course, being that we have the Mile High Mastermind coming up in September. We are opening that up to everyone this week, so it is very limited seats. So we've got some great content lined up, from building out your website to social media to how to get published and kind of everything in between, including Chaos Corinne coming back for the 3rd year in a row, which we are super stoked about. But you can also get the link to buy Adam's book, Just the Tips. I have it sitting on my desk this week, Adam. Be proud.
Nice change. Cool. Have you read it?
You can, a few times. You can also get past episodes of the show, our weekly little tip, past weekly little tips, and you can book a free hour of coaching with Adam and me. So text TIPS to 63566.
Cool. Thanks, Jen. And thank you again, Michael.
Thanks, Adam. Thanks, Jen.
We're going to run the extra. You guys all be good, and we'll see you next week. 10:30 Mountain Time for another episode of How I Met Your Mortgage.